Well, good morning. It is November the 3rd, 2025, and straight from the Highly Caffeinated Studio, this is According to Willie B, and I am your host for the next half hour. So today is part 5 of the Great BFF trip, and today we're going to be talking about Montreal. And believe it or not, even the few hours we spent in Montreal, it is a full podcast episode to talk about everything that was there. And I promise you, we didn't even scratch the surface on what there is to do and see, or to see and do, however you want to word that, in Montreal. Don't forget, there is some merch up on the website, www.accordingtowillieb.com. And then, of course, I will be posting more pictures on Instagram as we transition that social media over to the According to Willie B photos, videos, etc., etc., etc. All right, let's not waste a lot of time. Let's jump in this because it is going to be packed. I do not have time for word salads today. I've got to get through this. So here we go. All right, so like I told you, we stayed the night before in the Chateau de la Aiguate, and it was a really great stay, really great hotel. It was really neat. So we got up the next morning, and here we are. We got a full day in Montreal. Well, I say full day, but actually we only had till about 5 o'clock because we had about a 3 hour and some change drive over to Mount Washington. So we were going to pack as much in one day as possible. And I think we did a good job. I think because we had originally talked about doing an actual guided tour of the Freedom Trail. And I think we kind of opted away from that and kind of just did our own thing. I think we got to see and do more of what we wanted to see by not doing that. But we still covered all the main points that we wanted to see. Could I go back to Montreal and spend an entire weekend? Absolutely. That town has so much to offer. If you've never been there, go check it out on Google or check out some of the videos and stuff that I'll post on the Instagram. But Montreal is a crazy city. And if you know of anybody that likes to shop, and I'm not talking about in big box stores and stuff like that. I'm talking about mom and pop, different shops that have everything, specialty shops. They had a shop that had just everything maple, like maple syrup, maple candy, maple. I bought some of all of it and brought it home. But it's really good. And especially, I don't know if you remember the episode of Friends where Ross got into the maple candy. So I had to try that. And now that I know about the sugar content of that particular candy, I totally understand. But it's really good. That little box of candy, which is really small, will probably last me well beyond probably being able to eat it before it expires, I guess. But it, got a big Canadian maple leaf maple syrup jar. It was really cool. So we started out our day. We had to have some breakfast. So we found a local mom and pop breakfast place there in Montreal. I will tell you, and this is one of the things that I had researched because we had our own car. Montreal is not parking friendly. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. There's also, I think, a little bit of misguidance out there, if you will, on how much everything is in French. Can you get around the day and not know French? Yes, you can. So that's why I say it's not misrepresented. It's just maybe a little misguided because I can tell you when you're going through Canada, especially Montreal and some of these other areas, you can get off into some areas that are really deep into the French, and it behooves you to know some French. So I guess I'm going to have to start brushing up on my French if I'm going to keep going places like that. But anyway, so we found a little mom and pop restaurant. It was called La Vue Saint Laurent. And the place was really cool. It was like a old school diner met French cuisine kind of thing, right? But they still had the basics, kind of. Some of our party had eggs Benedict, but it had avocado, and I'm like, that's not my thing. But of course, neither is eggs Benedict. Yeah, we had blueberry waffle, we had crepe, we had French toast. I had, believe it or not, I did not get a waffle. I actually opted for a breakfast sandwich because it was on a bagel that was made in Montreal in a shop that was well known for really great bagels. And it had egg and bacon and, yeah, lettuce, tomato. I mean, it was like a full hamburger breakfast sandwich on that bagel. And it was so good. That was one of my favorite things that we ate there in Montreal. Until we got to lunch, of course. I'll tell you about that in a moment. So it was really cool. If you go to Montreal, I definitely recommend Loveview St. Laurent. You will not be sorry. It was really great service, really great food. Definitely a Montreal vibe to it, that's for sure. And the coffee was really good as well. Okay, so we hit the streets after breakfast. And if you've ever heard anything about Montreal, you know that most of their streets are brick or cobblestone. And that kind of really added to the whole Montreal vibe of being in another country. It gave you that feeling that you have really stepped a world away from your own home. But it was really cool. Now, I will tell you, if you have trouble getting around, Montreal has everything is on a hill. You have to go uphill just to go downhill. You have to go downhill to go uphill. I'm telling you, it's all on a hill. But so if you have any kind of mobility issues, just keep that in mind because it is kind of rough terrain with the cobblestone streets and the hills and everything, but totally navigable. Okay, I mean it was totally doable. But the amount of shopping that they have, I mean, you got the standalone souvenir shops, and you had this one. It was like to give you an explanation, kind of like a flea market mall, kind of, but it was a lot nicer than that. And it had all these different shops. Like I said, it had the food shop that had all kind of different creative cooking accessories and condiments, etc., spices. They had the maple syrup shop. They had some clothing shops, specialty things that were made, little handmade carvings. I mean, just anything that you could possibly think of that would be a specialty shop. They had it in there, and it was really cool. So, like I tell you, if you ever want to go to Montreal, you will not have to search for any kind of souvenir or gift to bring back to someone because it is insane the amount of things that they have. As a matter of fact, there was two things I bought in the food store. Naturally, I'm a foodie, so what can I tell you? There were these food crayons, okay? And there's 4 different ones in this box that I bought and brought home, and they look like crayons, but in little plastic tubes with a sharpener. Now, they're 100% organic, no preservatives or anything like that in it. But you take this crayon, if you will, and you sharpen it in that sharpener, and the flakes off of that food crayon you can use to season different foods. And so I actually picked up some chicken today because later this week I definitely want to try one of those food crayons out and see how well the flavor comes through out of a food crayon. I mean, this craziest thing. I bought this drink, and it was in this clear plastic can, and it was blue. I mean, blue as the Caribbean Sea. And I think that's kind of what attracted me to it. I was like, well, it looks like Caribbean water. Try that. It was raspberry. But it had edible glitter in there. I was like, I'm sorry, that's crazy. I just have to try it. So we all kind of took a sip of it. It was interesting. I did look them up, and you cannot find them here in the States. So I guess if I ever want another one, I'll have to wait till I go back to Montreal. But it was really cool. Just kind of some unique things. And that's what I'll tell you when you travel is try to find things that add to your experience, things that, can add to your memory bank as you're thinking about, I remember this Montreal. Oh, I remember that blue drink you bought. I had the glitter in it. I mean, just stuff like that. Did you use the food crayons yet? So, and it doesn't have to be something you buy. It can just be something you experience. But it's definitely do things that add to your memory bank on your trips, because that's what's going to give you the memories that you're going to remember forever. So we had our breakfast. We had a lot of shopping all morning long, and we were slated to leave Montreal no later than 5 because we really need to be on the road by 5, and that would put us at our hotel in Mount Washington at about 8:30, 9 if there was any kind of traffic or issues. So we were kind of pushing it. We wound up and left Montreal a little bit later than intended, but we still wound up made it to our hotel on time. So back to Montreal, one of the main things we wanted to see was the Basilica of Montreal. This is not your average Catholic church, and I'm going to post pictures on Instagram tomorrow. This thing was massive, and the ornate beauty of this church inside and out. I mean, the intricate carvings and paintings and stained glass, and it's just bigger than life, and it was so cool. And it was something to behold, that's for sure. I'm not Catholic, but it was really cool to see. It was one of the things that we had really looked forward to checking out, and we thoroughly enjoyed the Basilica. But that was actually the last thing. We kind of getting out of order here, but I wanted to talk about this because I just really enjoyed thinking about how many man hours that it took to do those carvings and paintings and things like that. It was so impressive that we can build things like that. And then, sometimes in today's times, we see things that are so cookie cutter, so mundane and boring. And yet here sits this. It's like, I realize that probably cost a fortune, but do we still have those capabilities? Do we still have those talents in the world? Because that was really impressive. Because you've got the river running through Montreal, you have the area, the Port de Montreal, and so there's a lot of shopping. There's a lot of street vendors and stuff like that over there. But what drew us over there was this Ferris wheel, and it was massive. I think it's actually a little bit bigger. It's made by the same company, but I think it's a little bit bigger than the one in Niagara Falls. But it had the same premises. It had the same design, had the big, massive cabin with the air conditioner in each one. I mean, you could spend the night in the thing. It was so big. But it's called the Le Grand Roi de Montreal, which Roi stands for, or I always say Rue, but I've been corrected that it's actually Roi. And somebody else may correct me again. So, there's that. But it stands for wheel. So the Grand Wheel of Montreal. There you go. What was funny about this particular Ferris wheel ride was that it had the option that you could take your phone and you could Bluetooth it to the speaker inside the cabin, so you could play your own music. Well, like I told you, Danny is like my twin. He sees an opportunity to have a moment of laughter, he's going to take it. So he connects his phone, unbeknownst to the rest of us, to the little Bluetooth system up in the ceiling. And he was had it up a little bit loud, a little louder than we wanted. And Kelly says, "Man, I love the music, but I wish it didn't have to be so loud." With that, Danny quietly turns it down, and we all look at one another, and they're like, "Can they hear us in here?" So he had a few moments of fun with us because we thought that all of a sudden that they could hear us. Well, turn it up. Of course, he would turn it up. Turn it, So there's that. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to buy something to make a memory. I will never forget saying, "Hey, this music's too loud," and all of a sudden it's turned down. I mean, come on, that's classic. But he had us there for a few minutes until we, finally discovered that, hey, you're the culprit behind the whole thing. But had great laugh, great times. We always have with them. So by the time we get through this, it's time for lunch. So we figured we would grab lunch before we headed over to the Basilica of Montreal. And so we had lunch in this place called the Brewski, Brewskey pub. Now, they brew their own beers and stuff. Now, I don't know how many different beers that they have, but it's a lot. But their food looked really good on the website. And it was actually a locally owned restaurant, so we wanted to try this. Now, we had tried poutine one time earlier, but we didn't really feel that it was authentic. Well, we're in Montreal, and what better place to get authentic poutine? And if you don't know what that is, let me break it down for you, just so that you know. It is spelled Poutine. Now, a lot of people pronounce it poutine, and some people pronounce it Putin. I'm sorry, I'm not eating anything that's called Putin. Poutine, you got me. I can make some kind of French excuse out of that. So I decided I was going to try it. I had debated back and forth. I thought, you only live once. So I tried it. It's basically French fries, their version of brown gravy, which was actually not bad. It's not really a southern brown gravy, but it was hearty and very savory. And then they have cheese curds mixed in. And so there you have it. Your fries, brown gravy, and cheese curds. Now, I reluctantly took a bite, but once I had a bite in my mouth, I'm like, hey, this is good. It's almost kind of like if you I guess in the South, if we took mashed taters and added brown gravy and threw some cheese on there, hey, there you go. That's our southern version of poutine. We could probably find a better name for it though, but it was really good. I'm glad that I didn't miss out on the experience and try it. So there was actually a lot of different foods that I tried on this trip. Throughout the different places because I didn't want to miss out on the experience. And I'm glad that I did because I really had some memorable moments on some different foods. But yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal. Would I eat it again? Oh yeah. It'd give me my own, but the only difference I would do is next time give me my own platter. I don't want to share because it was really good. But it was a great day in Montreal. We did the big Ferris wheel. You could see for miles. This thing was so huge. You could just see for miles over the river and over Montreal and kind of get a picture of how large Montreal is. And so that was really cool. So like I said, we did the things that we wanted to do, the things that were really the hot items on our list. We didn't miss anything, so to speak. The Freedom Trail, I mean, I would love to go back and do that, as a guided tour, but I don't really feel that we missed anything. So, there's that, but we definitely enjoyed the day. We had to get, there was one little place that I almost forgot to tell you about, because like I said, I go off of my memory here, But there was this place called, and we had already had lunch, and I was and had already stopped for a pastry and coffee in between all this. So I was absolutely miserably full. And that's the thing about when you go to, as a foodie, you go to different places. Oh, you want to try this? You want to try this? Well, your stomach's only going to allow so much of that. But there was a place called, and I'll have to spell it for you, but the pronunciation is Queue de Castor, which in French means beaver tails, and is spelled Queuesde, Castor, Castor. And it means beaver tails, and that is a very popular dessert in Montreal, and I guess in Canada in general, my understanding. But it's like this fried dough, and it's oblong, almost like the length of a hot dog bun, but it's kind of flat, maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches thick, and they put every kind of sweet topping. It's almost like, here in the States, we have the different ice cream shops or the frozen yogurt where you could get the frozen yogurt and you put all the different toppings on there. Kind of like that, but they take this fried dough and then you can slather any kind of stuff on there like Nutella or marshmallow whip and then top it with whatever kind of candies or toppings, etc. you want to put on there. And they're extremely, extremely messy. You almost just want to sit with a tablecloth around you and just sit in the middle of the floor. Unfortunately, that's the only picture I can paint for you, but it's that messy. But they did look really good. Cool shop. I did get enough footage that I can do an episode on Culinary Highway because I thought it was really cool. But that's a big thing in Canada, those beaver tails. So I'll hopefully get to go back. I'll have to save some room and try one of those. But there was just no way that any of us in the group could have taken another bite of anything. But there's always the next time, and it gives you a reason to go back because we all said that we would love to go back and spend more time in Montreal. Now, we did leave Montreal a little bit later because the Basilica took us a little longer to see than we had intended. But we got there a little bit later than we had originally planned on, but that's what happens is you have to be able to roll with the flow. But we did get to spend a decent amount of time before it closed because, we basically ducked in the door before closing time. We were one of the last groups in there, but I'm so glad we didn't miss it. But that put us a little bit late leaving. And I think we finally got to our hotel in Mount Washington, probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock, if I remember correctly. And none of us were really hungry. We're like, where do you want to stop for dinner? And everybody's like, do not even mention dinner because everybody was so stuffed. But we did grab a drive-through down the street from our hotel that night, and we're just like, just get something quick and let's just call it a night. Now, I want to tell you for a few minutes before we close this episode out, I want to tell you about the hotel. Actually, let me correct myself. Motel that we stayed in Mount Washington, because if you go to Mount Washington, I implore you, you need to stay here. One, it's a mom and pop owned, and they totally redone. From the ground up on this motel. It is so nice. It had modern amenities. It was just really nice. It's called the Top Notch Inn in Mount Washington. And I promise you, it is Class A. What's the word? I'll come back to it. But it was definitely a class act and all on its own. It was nice to see someone that took an old motel and fixed it up to the point that you didn't realize it was an old motel. I don't know how much they spent getting that motel to that shape and condition, but somebody put in a lot of elbow grease, as they say, to get that place looking like it did. It was absolutely amazing. I've stayed in some 3- and 4-star hotels that were not as nice as the Top Notch Inn. Super great owners. Talked to them for a little bit, and just absolutely had a great stay. But if you go to Mount Washington, that is definitely my choice for you to stay. I promise you, if I go back, that's where I would stay. But anyway, so next week will be part 6 of this great BFF trip, and we will talk about Mount Washington and the craziness that goes on up there on that mountain. But that's for next week, and that will be when I see you again right here behind this great big old mic. Don't forget to caffeinate and conquer. It's extremely important. I promise you that. But until I talk to you again, you have a great day, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.